Fashion is life.
And so is music.
Ladies!
If not play, make this papa, I know they take. I want to be only more for choco.
And all the movies you can watch basically.
Walks through walls and stuff.
So watch us. Follow us.
Connect with us. Television Nigerian.
Hang with the gang.
Part of the fan.
On Flex Arena. It's entertainment. Lips.
Lip.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your number one choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on Nigecomsat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries, Television Nigerian, broadcast beyond boundaries.
There's always something happening in the world of entertainment. From trending hot topics to even hotter music videos, the best events, and the most interesting guests, of course.
It just pushed me.
So find all of that juiciness and more on Posh Spice, the show that brings you all of the most entertaining content from the entertaining world of entertainment.
That's lit, man!
So watch me bring sizzling hot content to you on Television Nigerian. You can watch us on our Nigecomsat platforms, and if you are not a fan of television, watch us on our social media platforms and our web TV, of course.
Don't miss it. Seriously, don't miss it. My job literally depends on it.
You might not know the depth, you might not know the weight, but if you join me, Eunice Johnson, on Issues of the Moment, you definitely will find out all the answers you are looking for regarding burning issues ranging from politics, religion, economy, just name it. Issues of the Moment is your information hub.
Cut a slice of the north-central Nigeria with its raw mix of cultures, treasures, and amazing people. Bask in the vibrant glory of the beauty of nature with striking landscapes. Harness the best from agriculture, commerce and entrepreneurship. Put in a mix of local politics and governance from a resourceful people with amazing lifestyles, and you are right in the center of the northern Nigeria. North Central Journal, a compendium of people, places, news and views, all in an amazing mix that bears it all. Only on Television Nigerian.
Fashion is life.
And so is music.
Ladies! If not play, make you stop, Papa, I know they take. I want binu to it. Only more Jeff for Choco.
And all the movies you can watch basically.
Walks through walls and stuff.
So watch us. Follow us.
Connect with us. Television Nigerian.
Hang with the gang.
Part of the fam.
On Flex Arena. It's entertainment. On our lips.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on Nigecomsat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries, Television Nigerian, broadcast beyond boundaries.
There's always something happening in the world of entertainment. From trending hot topics to even hotter music videos, the best events, and the most interesting guests, of course.
It just pushed me.
So find all of that juiciness and more on Posh Spice, the show that brings you all of the most entertaining content from the entertaining world of entertainment.
That's lit, man!
So watch me bring sizzling hot content to you on Television Nigerian. You can watch us on our Nice concert platforms, and if you are not a fan of television, watch us on our social media platforms and our web TV, of course.
Don't miss it. Seriously, don't miss it. My job literally depends on it.
You might not know the depth, you might not know the weight, but if you join me, Eunice Johnson, on Issues of the Moment, you definitely will find out all the answers you are looking for.
Don't worry, no, start.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Friday morning in the nation's capital, and we're reaching you live from Television Nigeria, Guzape Hills, Abuja. The television with the trending news on politics, entertainment, sports, and lots more. And this morning, I'm anchoring the show alone. Yeah, a couple of my colleagues are out, but I promise you, we'll be back on Monday with all of them in the studio with all the exciting things you love. And this morning, we have a lot of things making headlines this morning. And the one that excites me most before I go to the government issues is that today was the day slave trade was abolished in the world. And this is something that is very dear to Africa. This is something, because a lot of us, our great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers were involved in slave trade, if not our grandfathers. So it's a beautiful thing. It's something that I love to remember, as much as it has a lot of bad memories attached to it. But it's something that shows that the world belongs to all of us, and so nobody has the right to turn you to his or her slave. And back to the news making headlines. Here in our country, the SGF, the Attorney General, I beg your pardon, has come out to say that he's going to punish people involved in the UK British courts, coming up to say that Nigeria is going to pay about $9 billion. He said that anybody involved in this, that his office is going to work hand in hand with the security agencies to bring to book the people who have, made this happen. And the federal government also said that it has invested trillions of naira in education. This is by the president, and with the ministers coming up and with a lot of things coming, the new portfolios being given out, we are hoping that the federal government makes up, invests more on education, because I feel really education is the way to go forward. I feel education is the way to bring up the young ones, just like they say, they are the future of the world, future of the Nigerians. So we hope that the federal government invests more on education. I'm not going to bore you with all the bantering this morning because I'm alone in the studio, but right now we'll be going straight to the AM News Desk, where Mr. Charles is standing by to give us the headlines. Stay with us.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seat and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on Nigecomsat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries,
Good morning, I'm Charles Ibe with the AM News on Daybreak Africa. President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday unveiled a Central Bank of Nigeria Center of Excellence at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. Buhari, while inaugurating the center, which was built by the CBN, pledged more funding to the education sector. He said that he would accord education priority attention in his second term by making it as affordable, qualitative and competitive as obtainable in developed countries. The president lauded CBN for supporting the federal government's investments in the education sector as well as other key areas of the economy tied to the overall development of the country. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said that the bank would remain committed to providing funding and infrastructural support to the education sector. African Doctors for Africa has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for the creation of the Humanitarian and Disaster Ministry, saying it's a recognition of efforts of non-governmental and civil society organizations towards achieving a better society. Buhari had on Wednesday, while swearing in the 43 ministers, assigned Sadia Omar Farouk, Zamfara State, as Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The NGO, in a statement by its chairman, Board of Trustees, Dr. Ver Or Nguto, in Abuja on Thursday, explained that by the creation of the ministry, all humanitarian activities would be better coordinated for optimal benefits. Meanwhile, the doctors congratulated the minister for the appointment, noting that it was like putting a round peg in a round hole, as she understood the magnitude of humanitarian needs in the country. The Court of Appeal sitting in Ibadan on Thursday refused to accede to the out-of-court settlement filed by Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde in the Olubadan chieftaincy case involving the controversial coronation of 21 kings by the immediate past governor Abiola Ajimobi. Instead, the appellate court in its judgment ordered that the case be remitted back to the High Court for trial before another judge. The appeal was filed by the immediate past governor of Oyo State against the Osi Olubadan of Ibadan land, Senator Rashidi Ladoja, and the chairman of the Olubadan Chieftaincy Review Panel, Justice Akintunde Boade, retired, as respondents. Both the Olubadan and Osi Ibadan Senator Rashidi Ladoja separately dragged the former governor Abiola Ajimobi to the state government, and the 21 new kings to the state high court. The Apex Igbo Social Cultural Organization, or Haneze Ndibo, has condemned the brutal killing of Pat Mbu in Enugu State. Mbu's body was found on Thursday after she went missing on Wednesday from a farm in Nchatacha community. The group, in a swift reaction, accused herdsmen of carrying out the killing and warned that the people of the region will be forced to resort to self-help if nothing is done to stop the killings. The spate of rape, kidnapping and killings in Igbo land by the daredevil Fulani herdsmen has reached an alarming crescendo. The recent killing of an innocent woman in Chatacha, Enugu State, boils the scattered outcries of national security. Ochi Abaga further called for thorough investigation and prosecution of killers to the people. That's the AM News on Daybreak Africa. The program continues with a business report by Chiwendo Osisiogo. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to TV and Business on Television Nigerian. I am Chiwendo Osisiogo. President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday urged African telecoms regulators to tackle the menace of cyber attacks and electronic fraud within the continent. They said the time has come for the regulators to leverage available opportunities in the industry to launch the continent into the mainstream of the 4G and 5G technologies. Buhari spoke while declaring open the second edition of Conference of African Telecommunications Regulators on Consumer Affairs at the Transcom Hotel, Abuja. Describing the team empowering the telecom consumer in an era of technology evolution as apps, Buhari advised the regulators to do all within their power to prevent e-fraud and cyber attack within the ecosystem of the continent. Represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the President expressed fears that telecom infrastructure might be hijacked and manipulated to the detriment of vulnerable consumers to perpetrate fraud and cyber crimes if not properly regulated. The Nigerian stock market reverted to its bearish trend on Tuesday as it lost 27.9 billion naira following sell-offs witnessed in large-cap stocks. The market capitalization of equities declined from 13.214 trillion naira on Monday to 13.186 trillion naira on Tuesday as the all-share index depreciated by 0.21% to close at 27,058.62 basic points. The year-to-date loss weakened to minus 13.9% as major sell-off were witnessed in MTN Nigerian Communications PLC, PZ Cruisant PLC, and Union Bank Nigerian PLC. Activity level declined as volume and value traded fell by 16.4% and 22.4% respectively to 209.621 million units and 3.236 billion naira. The most active stock by volume were Transnational Corporation of Nigerian PLC for 3.6 million units, Guaranteed Trust Bank PLC 43 million units, and Zenith Bank PLC 34.1 million units, while GTB 1.1 billion naira, Zenith Bank 592 million naira, and Nelson Nigerian PLC 526.9 million naira led by value. Investor sentiment as measured by market breadth advanced decline ratio further advanced to 2.7x from 1.3x recorded on Monday as 27 gainers emerged against 10 losers. The latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics have shown that a total of 100.42 billion naira loans advanced by the nation's bank to power firms have been recorded as non-performing. The power and energy sector out of the 22 sectors businesses line accounted for the 5th biggest shares of banks' 1.69 trillion naira non-performing loans as of April 30th. According to the NBS data, that the total debt owed by power firms to banks stood at 683.93 billion naira at the end of April. A breakdown of banking sector credit to the private sector showed that the power and energy sector got the 7th biggest credit from banks. However, the oil and gas sector received the lion's share, 4.68 trillion naira of the 15.45 trillion naira bank loans as of April 30th, followed by the manufacturing sector, 2.24 trillion naira, government, 1.37 trillion naira, and general commerce, 1.04 trillion naira. According to the NBS, the total loan portfolio of power and energy firms is made up of a naira component of 280.42 billion naira and a foreign currency component amounting to 403.151 billion naira. But that's much we have for you today on TVN Business Updates. I am Chiwendo Osisiogo. Now we shall be looking at the graphical representations of business stories making headlines.
Thank you, Chinwendu Osisi-Ogu, for that business report. Right now, we're going straight to news across Africa. Stay with us.
Welcome to News Across Africa on your favorite program, Daybreak Africa. I am Samuel Akban. At least 5 European Union countries, Spain, France, Germany, Luxembourg, and Portugal have offered to take some of the migrants who disembarked on the Italian island of Lampedusa late on Tuesday after being stranded for weeks at sea. About 100 migrants who were on board the charity ship Open Arms were allowed to disembark after a prosecutor ordered the evacuation of the vessel. Italy had refused to allow them to leave the ship for nearly 3 weeks, though dozens of children and the sick had been taken ashore. Earlier, about 10 migrants jumped off the ship, hoping to swim to the island. Reuters report says the European Union Commission is also seeking states willing to take migrants on the second charity vessel, the Ocean Viking, which has been stranded at sea for 13 days, trying to find a port to allow the hundreds of those rescued from the Mediterranean to disembark. A Kenyan man has been arrested at the international airport in Thailand's capital, Bangkok, trying to smuggle into the country 68 capsules of cocaine. The Thai drug authorities say Glenn Chibeselo Oka had swallowed the capsules that were later found to be cocaine, that were later found to contain a total of 1.2 kg of cocaine, adding that it was an X-ray that showed the object in the man's stomach that alerted the country's Office of Narcotics Control Board. Niyomtem Srisuk of the Narcotics Control Board said the arrests were part of a crackdown on a drug trafficking, and the authorities had arrested 43 suspects since October last year. Sudan has appointed a new prime minister as the country embarks on a 3-year transition to civilian rule. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok said achieving peace and solving the economic crisis were priorities. His appointment comes as Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah Abdurrahman Boham was sworn in as leader of the new Sovereign Council. The new government will run the country until an election. There has been months of turbulence, including death of dozens of protesters. The crisis began with protesters at the end of last year, which led to the ousting of Omar al-Bashir after 30 years of authoritarian government. Hamdok was sworn in as transitional prime minister on arrival from Ethiopia, where he has worked as a respected senior economist for the United Nations since 2011 before stepping down last year. Zimbabwe's former Vice President Felekezela Mfoko has appeared in court on corruption charges and has been granted bail. Mfoko was a co-vice president under Robert Mugabe. He served alongside current President Emmerson Mnangagwa when Mugabe was ousted by the military in November 2017, but the two former deputies have fallen out. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission on Tuesday said they wanted to talk to Mfoko about alleged abuse of office, but Mpoko's lawyer, Zubizizo Nkube, said his client has not run away but feared for his life and was concerned that he would be injected with the poison, adding that the allegations against his client are sensationalist. Authorities in Liberia have rearrested the son of former President Ellen Joseph Sirleaf over the unlawful printing of local currency worth millions of dollars. Last year, $15.5 billion Liberian dollars of freshly minted currency disappeared from the Liberia's port. Charles Sirleaf, who was the deputy governor of Liberia's central bank, was arrested and due to face trial for economic sabotage, criminal conspiracy, and theft. He was arrested after the state prosecutors added a further charge of money laundering to the accusations. Charles Sirleaf has, however, denied all wrongdoing. President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and Paul Kagame of Rwanda have signed a peace deal to end their diplomatic feud. The two presidents signed the deal in the presence of the leaders of Angola, Congo-Brazzaville, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, who have all played a mediation role. The relationship between the two neighbors have been fraught over the last 3 years, both trading accusations of interference in each other's affairs. The tension has affected trade along common border as Rwandans have not been allowed to cross to Uganda. The agreement says they will resume as soon as possible the cross-border activities between the two countries. That's much we have for you on News Across Africa. Join us next week for another edition of the segment. Daybreak Africa continues in a moment. I am Samuel Akpan.
Joining us. This is Daybreak Africa, reaching you live from Television Nigeria, Guzape Hills, Abuja. Right now, we'll be going to the Healthy Living segment, where Lillian Ambi is going to be talking about river blindness. Stay with us.
From the bitterness of disease, man learns the sweetness of health. It's another episode of Healthy Living. I am Lillian Ambi. On this episode, I will be educating you on river blindness. River blindness is an eye and skin disease caused by a worm called filaria. It is transmitted to humans through the bite of black fly. These flies breed in fast-flowing streams and rivers, increasing the risk of blindness to individuals living nearby. Within the human body, the adult female worm produces thousands of babies or larval worms which migrate in the skin and the eye. There are different stages of river blindness. In early stage, you may not have any symptoms. It can take up to a year for symptoms to appear and the infections to become apparent. Symptoms include skin inflammation that is very itchy and forms purples on the skin, bumps in the skin, scarred, saggy or dripping area of skin, pitchy skin pigmentation, also known as leopard skin, lymph node inflammation, eye itching, redness and or swelling, visual problems like visual impairments and inability to distinguish certain colors, partial or complete blindness. SODA is a term used to describe the severe itching and skin discoloration, which is darkening. There are no vaccines or medications available to prevent becoming infected with color blindness. However, the best prevention is to avoid being bitten by black flies. Wear long sleeves and clothes that covers all your legs during the day. Use insect repellents. You see a doctor if you suspect any infection, so you can begin treatment before symptoms become severe. That's the much I have for you on today's episode. He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. Bye.
Thank you, Lillian Ambi, for that update on health tip. Just like she said, health is wealth. Watch what you do and protect yourself from this black fly, she said. Right now, we are at the segment of the newspaper review, and I have Mr. Victor, who has joined me already in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Victor.
Good morning, and I feel like a co-host now.
Yes, you're actually my co-host this morning. Yeah, welcome to the studio, Mr. Victor. What's making headlines this morning?
We'll find out from the papers, and we can begin to find that out from the Punch newspaper and see what's making the headlines today. So the story at the front page is EFCC ICPC will beam searchlight on fraudulent banks. This is the federal government. Nigerians behind UK's $9 billion judgment will be punished, says the AGF. You find all the stories on page 2. And the picture story, that of the National Youth Service Corps Batch B Stream 2 band members during their swearing-in NYC orientation camp at Mangu local government area of Plateau State. And you find that story, and there's a mock wrestling there on the right. And below the picture stories, we will work with talent in Plateau's interest. This is Lalong. And you find that story on page 18. We didn't authorize Katsina Corpers ill-fated trip. This is the NYSC speaking, coming out to speak. Find that story on page 9. Woman beats daughter to death, flees with corpse. Sad one. You find that story on page 4. Gunmen storm Sokoto community, abduct assembly member. Find that story on page 11. And on page 9, there's a story on flood sweeps away 3 kids during Kano downpour. And on page 11, PFN ends rape probe, Fato Imboshon's panel. Full details of that on page 11. And above the masthead, the CBN governor is speaking. He's saying 3,891 debtors owe banks above 1 billion naira each. 3,891 debtors own banks above 1 billion naira each. So if we have it on an average of 1 billion per person, that is going to like 3 trillion naira already.
Wow.
And find more details of that on page 29. Just beside that, how 40 bandits attacked my deputy's convoy. This is Governor Sule. Find the details on page 2. Governors kick as FG demands 614 billion naira bailout refund. Find more details of it on page 8. Banks defy CBN on turned 50 naira notes orders. Okay, that story is on page 28. Oyo Ita at work. Presidency insists no retirement letter. Find details of that on page 19, on page 39 rather. Monarchs officials sabotaging trader money. This is the presidency speaking. More details of it on page 40 of the Punch newspaper. And that is the full package on the Punch newspaper, the front page, yes.
Yeah, you know, this judgment from the British court has been making headlines for a while now. And then the AGF coming out to say, federal government coming out to say that they are going to touchlight the banks who deal in fraudulent activities. Yeah, what's that for the banks right now?
Well, like banks who are not guilty of any fraudulent do not have any reason to be afraid.
For federal government to say this, what is that? Which banks? Are there no banks that? What do they mean by fraudulent activities? That's what I want to understand. Because if someone comes into the bank, pays in money, and then anyway, I'm sure there are other fraudulent deals that go on.
Banks sometimes are conduits for laundering money. They help people launder money, and then when you also look at the way sometimes they loan out money, they could loan out money within themselves. So if you look at the case of what happened to Diamond Bank, it was most like the directors, the board of directors, those who were members were taking money out of the bank, deposited money to finance other businesses which did not yet result and then went bankrupt. So it's like by the time you use money that are not meant for you, you give out money
bad loans
kind of arbitrarily and all of that. Yeah. So these are some of the fraudulent issues that the federal government might want to be looking at in that case. And looking at the $9 billion judgment.
Because
so I feel like even if they go after those who are responsible or who play the part in it, they will still have to pay back. They would have to pay.
Because most of this money were actually interest built, on the money. And if you get the hint of the story, I've forgotten the name of the oil company that got involved in this. They didn't even invest up to $1 million, and now they are going to be paid $9 billion.
And then you okay, that also brings the story. If you remember the story of Etisalat, one of the stories that made Etisalat have to leave or take their franchise away from the present network was the situation of capital flights, taking loans as usual in this manner to finance to help grow the telecom business. And then by the time they went to do investigation, they found out that the money that they borrowed, they could not find anything tangible that they used that money. So that money wasn't applied for the purpose that they borrowed the money for. It was more of a case of a capital flight, borrow money and then
use it for something else.
Or just take it out of the country.
Wow. Okay, we'll be going straight to the People's Daily. And the streaming headlines there says, will recover 614 billion naira bailout funds from the states, says the federal government. The full details of this is continued on page 5. And the picture story there is that of the president, the former vice president, and a couple of other chieftain, Minister of Environment during the inauguration of the Zaria Water Supply Expansion Project yesterday in Kaduna. And below that we have why we restricted movement at Seme border. This is by customs. The full details is continued on page 6. Tribunal dismisses HDP's petition challenging Buhari's election. The full details is continued on page 2. Fleeing Boronu residents return after Boko Haram attack. The full details of this is continued on page 2. And below the marks head we have Buhari, we've invested 1.3 trillion naira in education since 2015. The full details of this is continued on page 3, I beg your pardon. Heads will roll over seizure of $9 billion Nigerian foreign assets. This is by Malami. The full details of this is continued on page 5. Wow. And that's the much People's Daily have in their front page this morning. And it goes back to the same thing we were talking about the 9 billion. The AGF now is coming saying that heads will roll. You know, that brings me to our government. We wait, it's almost like our government waits until it gets very bad.
Before it begins to act.
Yes, before it begins to act. And that's, you know, we have $9 billion to be taken out of our foreign assets.
Well, in fact, I don't even know what to say regarding that, but I think it's something that we try and sort out. So if the
it's not about trying to sort it, because if they appeal for this, you know how in our country, our judiciary system is slow. Yes. You know, we are slow in getting things, and this thing is like a foreign court. So even if they appeal, it's not going to take time before the judgment is going to come out again. Yeah, yes. And imagine if the judgment comes out and they insist that we have to pay $9 billion.
So looking at it, the government itself might not have to really cough out $9 billion from its assets.
Treasury.
So it could be, since the HGFC is going after those people, perhaps if you go after those people,
but the government will have to pay while they go. You know our judiciary system. But by the time they go after these people, how long is it going to take before judgment comes?
But let's when they say you are going to pay $9 billion, nobody will expect you to pay $9 billion at once. $9 billion it's quite a lot of money. They've given
them. In case you don't know what the court has said, court has ordered that they start seizing Nigerian assets that is worth $9 billion. That's what the judgment has said. So until they appeal for, I'm sure maybe the federal government has appealed for it, but if they appeal for it, I can bet you in no due time, the judgment is going to come back again. And if this is going to be the situation, it's really a sad one.
Well, I just think I'll like to wait and see what the AGF is able to do. And then the president saying that I've spent 1.3 trillion naira in the education sector. A lot of people will say we've not seen that investment. And what was the major bulk of the 1.3 million? Was it like overhead costs?
Actually.
Trillion rather. Like, were they just overhead costs? Does it include the homegrown school feeding program and all of that? Because in a country like Nigeria, if you inject 1.3 trillion naira under 4 years in the education sector, people are supposed to expect to see massive progress, massive changes. Because when you go to the universities, those owned by the federal, or you go to the secondary school owned by the federal government, they are still in that state that they were decades ago, like very little improvement. Or perhaps less a major of the perhaps a major bulk of the money were paid to the ASU to settle their missing grievances. I don't know.
But I think is it ASU or non-academic staffs are on warning strike as we speak. So where did the I don't know. It's
Well, we will see. So let's move on to the next paper, which is the blueprint. And the blueprint here, the story making the major headline is Presidency on Trader Money. Monarchs, government officials take bribes from beneficiaries. Says Oshun, Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, Benue, Niger, guilty. Take case to EFCC, ICPC, laments non-prosecution. Find full details of that on page 6. The picture stories there are that of the governors of Benue, the governors of Benue, Kwara, Katsina, Ebonyi, Anambra, Edo, and the rest at climate change and AFDB secretariat in Abuja yesterday. Below the picture story there, you have thousands trapped as Boko Haram seizes Gubbio, Magumeri local governments. Survivors join Maiduguri IDPs. We have repaired attacks. This is the army responding. How government abducted Sokoto lawmaker. The police speaking, giving details of that. Find it on page 5. I will set new security agenda for the nation. That is Arebe Shola, the new Minister of Interior. Kogi governor boasts of victory at primaries. IPAC wants REC redeployed. Full details on page 32. While we attacked Ekweremadu, IPOP speaking again. Find full details of that on page 23. Below the masthead, federal government to recover 6.4 billion naira debts from states. This is from the finance minister Ahmed Zainab speaking. Find it on page 5. MTN Glo suffer more cases of vandalism. That story is on page 34. Women farmers lament low budgetary allocation to agri sectors. People who are enthusiastic for the agri sector to grow. Find details of that on page 33. And lastly on page 8, but not the least, Akintoye emerges Yoruba leader. Get details of that on page 8 of the news of the Blueprint newspaper. And that's it.
And what struck me there is Monarch government officials taking bribes from beneficiaries of trade money.
Well, being a Nigerian, I think it is no surprise. Programs like this, SIP programs like this, you always find that there are always elements of corruption. Even if the even if the president is going to share just only 500 naira to his citizens, you still find that level of corruption. People taking bribes. Like, let's get your name on the paper.
How much was this trade money?
Trade money ranges.
Okay, ranges according to...
Yes, but the base was 10,000 naira. So the idea was that if you take 10,000 and you're able to repay it back, then you'll be qualified for a higher amount of money. So like that. So, and when you find out that when you go to the market, not everybody gets the money. So I think that is where the whole bribes, corruption coming from, and or maybe also in terms of paying back the loan. So people could be like, okay, if you give me this, then I can find a way to make your loan go away, and then you can be qualified for another loan. We don't know. Wow. So I think you have to get the paper to get more details of how the bribe is being given and taken.
And who took?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be going straight to the Nigerian pilot, and the screaming headlines there says, heads to roll over 9 billion judgment. Nigeria threatened as British court rules 20% assets in reserve to be fortified. Banks orders aiding corrupt politicians to face persecution. The full details of this is continued on page 8. And we have a picture story there of members of oil communities in Niger Delta during their protest against non-compliance by Shell to Senate resolution directing the company to pay rent to the host communities in Abuja yesterday. And below the picture story, we have 17 passengers die in road accident. That's a sad one, and the full details is continued on page 6. And below that, we have review closure of Akanu Ibiam International Airport. Traders beg federal government. The full details of this is continued on page 5. Suspected Fulani herdsmen rape, kill widow. That's a very sad one. You can get the full details on page 12. Creation of new humanitarian ministry African doctors laud Buhari. The full details of this is continued on page 11. Operation Green Sweep 3. NAF destroys terrorist base, logistics base. That's a good one, and it's coming on page 6. You can get the full details there. Falana asks court to fix dates for Sowere's case. The full details of this is continued on page 6. Ministers have reciprocated Kaduna People's Good gesture. This is by the President. The full details is continued on page 5. And below the headmarks we have, we've spent 1.3 trillion on capital projects in education. This is by the President. The full details is continued on page 7. And we have Oyo Ita returns to work as Buhari rejects retirement request. The full details of this is continued on page 9. And we have a bit of sports there. AAG Taekwondo gives Nigeria 1 gold and 2 bronze. That's a good one. And we also have the FCT Fatah urges new minister to pay attention to Nigerians to the Nation Stadium. You can get all the full details of this on the Nigerian Pilot. That's about what we have in the front page on the Nigerian Pilot.
Alright. Yeah, I think we have already spoken most of the headlines.
Yes, most of the things.
So we just go to the next paper, which is the Daily Trust. And the story making the front page is why Boko Haram is hitting more Borno communities as normalcy returns to Gubbio Magumeri. That story is started on the front page and continued on page 5. Picture story there. The pictures here shows the damages that that's occurred as a result of this Boko Haram attack on Gubbio and Magumeri communities yesterday. Below the picture stories, Emir of Zazau to Buhari rescue ABUTH from collapse. That story, that plea is on page 4. Police recover guns from Wadumen's houses in Taraba. That story is on page 4 as well. Non-teaching varsity workers suspend strike. Get more details of that on page 3. And below the masthead, consumers groan as FG hikes electricity tariff. More bills for less lights. Find that story on page 7. 17 people killed in Kwara auto accidents. That full details on page 6. And the federal government state LGs to share 769.5 billion naira revenue for July. Some states, governors, and local government chairmen should be smiling at this point. Yeah. And they're about to receive alert. And if it happens that it enters today, then they'll be like, thank God it's Friday, the weekend is going to be blue.
Yeah, and with something that struck me there is the road accidents that it's been recorded of late. And I will use this opportunity to urge the drivers to drive carefully, considering we're at in the raining season, I beg your pardon. Our roads are a bit in a very terrible state, I must say, right now. So yeah, exactly. I hope the minister, I think it's Fashola now, works in housing.
Yes, works in housing, yes.
Yeah, so we hope that he has new strategies on how to work on our roads, because recording of these accidents and just like we said, the raining season, I hope the drivers are being more careful in their driving considering the season. Thank you, Victor, for joining me this morning. It's a short one, I must say. But because it's Friday, I want to kick Victor out of the studio and get on with other things, because we want to get out of this serious mood. Right now, we'll be going straight to Uchechi Elemuwa, where she will be telling us about the best Nigerian fashion designers. Stay with us.
Joining, this is Fashion Book. It is all about fashion. Nigeria is a fashion powerhouse, not only on the African continent, but globally. Numerous Nigerian fashion designers have won accolades for their exemplary work and roles in showcasing the Nigerian spirit, culture, and diversity. University. Today we are talking about the best fashion designers in Nigeria, and we have as number one Folake Folarin. He is the founder of Tiffany Amber, a world-famous iconic label whose journey began in Lagos in 1998. She was born in Lagos and schooled in Europe, where she got an opportunity to interact and engage with various cultures while still at a very young age. Interestingly, she has a master's degree in petroleum law from Switzerland. But as fate would have it, her insatiable passion for fashion led her into fashion design. Her And we have as number two Duro Olowo. The London-based Nigerian-born Duro Olowo shares both Nigerian and Jamaican roots and is a household name in both the Nigerian and global fashion industry. He is undoubtedly a well-respected Nigerian fashion design personality, famous for unique and colorful African prints. He is super talented in working with patterns, and his design incorporates with rich culture, spirit and diversity of the Nigerian people. Sketching and drawing. He loves to work with color, and his awesome talent has seen his piece worn by famous politicians and celebrities. Young and successful, he is a talented fashion designer to watch out for, as his name continues to cause ripples in the local and global fashion industry. Laura Fatorotti. Laura is a Nigerian-born, New York-based fashion designer with extensive experience and renowned international repute. Fatorotti, who hails from Ondo State, went on to school in London before moving to New York in the early 90s. Her fashion journey began from childhood when she helped her grandmother, who was also a fashion designer. Her inspiration is mainly drawn from the roots and rose to fame in New York when she made a dress to celebrate Barack Obama's election as President of the United States. The dress had these bold Yoruba words, Oluwaba President Barack Obama, which means God bless President Barack Obama.
Thank you so much, Uchechi Nlemuwa, for that fashion update. just like we always say in Daybreak Africa, African prints, African culture, African everything is beautiful, and that's, I'm sure you agree with me looking at those beautiful pieces from African designers. And swifting from fashion right now, I'm going straight to entertainment. I'm sure all of you are waiting. Wait, Priscilla, let her, boom, give us all the entertainment gist on social media. Welcome to the studio, Mrs. Priscilla.
Miss.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm very available.
And searching?
No, I don't know about searching.
Okay, welcome to the studio, Miss Priscilla.
Thank you very much.
So, shoot.
Alright, so this morning there's a lot happening, and then our first story is about Laura Ikeji. She recently posted on her social media about wanting the federal government to put laws in place against teachers that flog children in school. According to her, she feels like we've gone past that and people should not be able to flog children. That's what she said, and a lot of people have a lot of comments. I think generally in Africa we believe in using the rod, spare the rod and spoil the child. So people are not very, like, some people, especially people that are more exposed, feel like we're past that, children should not be flogged. But in most schools, children still get flogged. So
this flogging of children is something that I don't know really, but I think at some point a child should receive some form of punishment. I don't know if flogging is the right thing. But I think, of course, a little bit of spanking here and there, it's not a bad idea. But, when you start flogging a child, like, you remember those kind of floggings, we get those thick.
You have lines all over.
No, that one I totally don't support. But, of course, there should be forms of punishment. And one thing I've noticed now is that kids are beginning to even get afraid of those small punishments. So you find out you can actually make the statement without brutalizing a child, because I call it brutality. It's just like the case of the lady who flogged the child and locked the child up in a kennel. So those ones are really the extreme, and I feel that lots of punishment you could give to a child to correct a child for a mistake. And I think this flogging issue, I totally agree with her.
I feel like generally sometimes the whole flogging thing, people have their own different views, and some people will agree with you, some people will not agree with you. But sometimes I feel like I don't think teachers in schools should get like the right to have the right to flog kids. I think there should be other forms of punishment, like you said, and then even parents at home. There's a kind of way you treat your child, and then your child goes to school, and then the teacher begins to treat your child in that sort of way. At some point, the child becomes very, like, I don't know what to call it. The child's self-esteem drops, and then the child becomes very,
the thing is also with children, children are very sensitive. You have to, what you put in them is what they give out to the society. You find out that some teachers, some parents too, on their own hand, don't even help the teachers, because I feel there are things you need to teach your child at home. And no matter what you do in school, the child will never learn it. So you find out it's a bit of the teachers and the parents coming together to actually help the child.
But there are parents that don't take it when teachers flog their child. They go to the school to fight.
No, I know I understand that aspect, but I feel also parents should look at helping the teachers in training their kids, because a lot of parents they go to work, they come back, and that's it. They don't really, have one-on-one with their kids. They have a house help who does that, and then boom, maybe your child has gotten a terrible bad behavior that only the teacher sees. And probably, I don't support flogging in any way, either way, but then something happens and then you're screaming. But because you're not paying attention to your child, you're not understanding there are bad manners you need to cut off from your child.
So that means there's so much work to be done.
There's so much work.
Wake up and say no flogging.
There's so much work to be done in between the parents and the teachers, really. But flogging, I totally don't support it.
Well, let's see what the federal government does about this. They might not do anything, so we don't know. Alright, now moving on. So Funke Akindele is celebrating her wedding anniversary. She posted on her social media, that is her Instagram, where she posted loved up pictures of her and her hubby JJC, telling him how she loves him and thanking him for a beautiful wedded life. It's really nice. I like when I see things like this because most times we just hear celebrity breakups. When I see celebrities, that are married, they are both celebrities.
Yeah.
They're married and then they're making it work. It's really nice. They recently just had twins, and they're really happy.
They're really happy.
Yeah.
Coming from what she had been through, because she had a marriage before him, and then it's working out for her. I'm happy for her, and it's and happy anniversary to you, Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah. Alright, now so moving on. So Tacha of Big Brother Naija did it crazy yesterday, where she was dressed in a see-through dress, semi-nude, with her boobs right in our faces, and then she only had tapes to cover them. Well, according to what we heard and what she did, she was celebrating her boyfriend's birthday. He's not one of the housemates, he's outside the house. She was celebrating his birthday. She cooked for all of the housemates and read a poem, or what I would call a birthday message to him. It was really cute, but then I don't know, this Big Brother this year, there's something else. Like, she doesn't see what she
it's
wore,
beautiful
like,
for her to actually, be celebrating her boyfriend in the house, considering that some are actually loving up in the house. She still stood, for her boyfriend. She
actually spoke with Mike like a few days back. She told him that she really loves her boyfriend, and then before now she didn't used to put it all out there, but she feels like after the show she would even have maybe a YouTube channel, share everybody, because she really loves him and she would not have any kind of relationship with anybody in the house. That's one of the reasons why she does not even share that head of house room with anybody. So I respect that. I think this is the one thing that Tacha does that I'm solely behind her about. Everything else, sometimes I'm like, Tacha, I like her, but sometimes she can come up very strong and too much. But this is really nice. Although I still feel like the clothes was just too much. Like,
that's big product
like
for you.
super sexy. It was sexy on another level. My God.
That's what I'm sure that's why you're talking about her now. That's what a lot of Big Brother viewers
I think that was
see.
her intention. She didn't want it to go unnoticed. She didn't want the message. She
wanted
wanted people to
pass
talk
the
about
message.
it. She wanted to get his attention.
Maybe
and everything.
her boyfriend could also see some part of her which he has not seen.
I don't know about that.
I guess so, because if you're going nude, that's what you're trying to show or something.
Yeah.
So as she's celebrating her boyfriend and she goes nude, she's passing a message to her boyfriend.
Us Nigerians are becoming a lot more, I don't know if it's body confident or if it's more like right now, you see Nigerian girls, we're not all covered anymore. Like, we just
I think the thing is, a lot of people are beginning to get, I don't know, maybe the African thing, which is still beautiful.
Yeah.
But some ladies are feeling that the African culture hadn't given the women a lot of space to show who they are, be happy for who they are, their body-wise and whatever it is. So, and because the modern thing about feminism is now coming into our culture, they feel it's time to explode, I guess.
Wow,
they're really exploding.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are. Now, moving on to our next story. So, Angelina Jolie and her son Maddox were at his university. She dropped him off at college and she spoke to his friends and everything. It was a really emotional setting because he's her adopted son. She adopted him when he was younger and he's finally in college, and it really got her very emotional dropping him off. And then it was really sweet. Angelina Jolie and her kids, I don't know. I think there are about 6 of them. Like, I think like 4 are adopted and 2 are hers. Like, I really respect that.
Angelina Jolie is a woman. She's actually a legend. There's everything she does. It's beautiful. With her kids, with her children, and with her divorce, with Brad Pitt.
She handled it very well.
And she handled it very well. And of course, she's surrounded with her children. So really, and she's doing a very good job. I hope our actresses down here are emulating what she's doing, because she's really a lady that everybody looks up to. She's the queen of the cinemas.
Like, she's on another level. And when Angelina Jolie comes into the room, everybody notices, from fashion, her looks, everything. She always, like, I feel like some people just have that star thing about them. Like, it's so easy for them to be a star.
She's a star. I think it's not about people coming out. I think the thing is that she has walked it. She has aimed it. This is something, because if you watch her movies, any role that Angelina Jolie is given, she brings it to perfection. So I think she has paid her dues, and that's why she's celebrated everywhere you see her. And thinking about all her adoption,
Yeah, it's
considering from the
beautiful.
culture she's from, where everybody
Yeah.
doesn't want to be disturbed by kids and all that.
She puts herself into it because you notice she's always doing stuff with her kids, going out with them, doing this, doing that, and I really respect that. I feel like she shows women that you can be strong and be a good mother at
And
the
still
same
be
time.
a star.
Yes, and still be a star. Alright, so that's about it for entertainment news today.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I think you came with subtle topics today.
Yeah, very subtle. I'm in a subtle mood.
You're in a subtle mood, I guess. Thank you so much for joining me in the studios, and thank you, my viewers at home, for joining us on this segment of Daybreak Africa. And thank God it's Friday. And like I always say, do not drink and drive. We'll be back same time on Monday morning. And do not forget, you can leave your comments and follow us on all our social media handles. I am Lucy Ora, and thanks for joining me.